Hello and welcome to section 3. In this video I'm going to talk to you about imagery. Imagery is clearly very important for any website. For me, images are that which makes the website come alive a little bit. I love the less is more approach in my design, using white space, making your content, particularly your copy, leap from the page, so to speak, making it easy to read. But I also use imagery in such a way as to give the web page a temperament, a feel. So getting your imagery right is something that can take a bit of time, a bit of experience, but ultimately with the guidelines I'm going to lay out in this video, you hopefully can get some results reasonably easily. I'm also going to introduce the 3 main resources that I use as a professional web designer. So first of all, imagery can come from anywhere. You could have imagery on your phone. So many of us nowadays have smartphones and take photographs of us ourselves. Could be at work, could be professional photographs, or it could be that your web page is actually relating to something else, a hobby, something you do on the side. So the point is you could have existing photos. So do think about that initially, because if just one of those images works on the web page, it's one less that you've got to go source. Once you have some images, which I'm going to show you shortly, the way that you add them is here. So on the left, you would hover over media, click add new, and click select files. This is a downloads folder on Windows 10. I think on Mac OS the downloads folder is in the dock. I think that's probably the main area where you would find it. Don't use Apple that much, so not entirely 100% on that. I think there's more than one way to find downloads as well, much like there is in Windows. But certainly this is where you would have put the images, be it if you've downloaded them from one of the resources I'm going to show you in a minute, or if they've come from a collection you've already got. You would want to put them, you could put them anywhere in your file explorer, but I would say put them in downloads and put them together, and then you can obviously keep a nice clean process in getting them uploaded. So once you've put them there, you click on the image in the appropriate folder, you press open, and it basically uploads them to WordPress here. In the next video, I will show you how to add them to the actual web page. We're going to import the template, which you should have downloaded earlier on, and then we're going to use Elementor for the first time properly, aside of the coming soon template, and actually begin designing the page. So next up is this wonderful website. Unsplash is a resource I found a number of years ago, and it is to this day still makes me so happy. Unsplash is essentially a source of freely usable images, as it says there in the middle. So what that means is that photographers, amateur and professionals, I assume, given the quality of the imagery that's uploaded, load up their photos to Unsplash. People like me and you can download them to our heart's content and use them on websites. You can use them for anything. It actually says that in the Unsplash license. You can use them for commercial purposes too. If you can give credit for the use of the image, when you download an image, you'll see when I do it in the next video, a box appears here at the bottom of the screen asking, just saying credit for who actually took it. If you can put credit on your web page, if that doesn't affect what you're trying to achieve on the page, then do it, because I have done that on some projects where it's been possible. It isn't a lot of the time, I'll be honest, but certainly where you can, it's just nice to give back a bit of something to the guys that load up these beautiful images. So this is Unsplash, and what I would say to begin with is type into this search bar what you're looking for, literally. That is the place I start. My guidelines for when you start to traipse through images, and of course you will, many of them, if I just put in a pretty typical one, business meeting, often the sites that I create are for professionals, and business meeting image is quite common. When you start to go through the images, there is obviously many of them. The guideline I would give, first of all, is go for an image that you like. If you like the feel of it, so here I prefer this image to this one. I do quite like images where maybe it's more, can you see how we're not looking at anybody's face specifically? It's not as bold as that, unlike this one. This one also, yes, they look a bit stock. They look a little bit like they've been created for this reason, rather than being an authentic image of, you know, this case, specific people around a table, clearly having some kind of discussion. But I think they had a nicer temperament on the front end. That's just my personal feeling. And like I said, and like I've said all along, to anybody that's asked me for advice on websites, it does come down to your personal feeling. Business, you know, reason for the website or whatever it is, hobby or interest aside, the fact is you need to like your own website. So that's the first bit of guideline, is go for an image that you like. If you like an image, the chances are that other people will as well. It's a way of working that I've always stuck to, of course, within certain guidelines. For example, in the next video, you'll see that I pick images to do with surfing. Now that can relate very, 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 very loosely to web design and what I do. It's a bit tenuous, is that link, but nonetheless, it can. The reason why I went for that in the end, honestly, is because I couldn't think of anything else. A web designer's landing page images could literally be anything, because us professional web designers design websites for anything. So I just went for what I like. And, you know, the colours, the way the images make me feel, I sort of want to be in the images. That's kind of what it does for me. That emotive connection really works. And I've had loads of compliments, even from people who aren't into surfing. And that's the point. That's the first bit of advice. The second one is, if you're trying to get a very corporate feel, typically go for images that show some kind of interaction. I've probably just covered that a little bit here. It may be that you could say this shows interaction. Personally, this image for me is better. I don't know why, it just looks a little bit more inclusive. This one, they're looking and listening to this chat. This one here, it looks like a discussion. This is very light advice, obviously. Hopefully you get what I'm trying to get across. So an idea of somebody shaking hands or some kind of business meeting, I think is a better image than this one, which is just a bit stale and a bit abstract. It doesn't really do or say anything. It doesn't mean as much to me on that temperament note, on the look and feel. The third bit of advice is, if you are going for some kind of city scene, for example, where maybe you want the actual city to be the focus, then try and get an image of that city. So if you're in London or New York or a capital city, then get an image, if you can, of London that is obviously London, you know, with the Tower Bridge in the background or whatever it may be. You know, don't be afraid to do that, because again, that will make your the temperament of what you're trying to achieve come alive. Last guideline is get landscape photos. Unsplash does, these are all landscape, but then you've got this one, look here, that's portrait. Landscape photos work on desktop and mobile. Portrait photos work on mobile, but they struggle on desktop because they get stretched. If you tell Elementor, which I'll show you, to cover the section that you're putting the photograph, in this example, as a background, it will stretch the portrait image and it doesn't look so good. In fact, if anything, it looks awful. So that's just the last little bit of advice there. Once you have gone through a trawl and you are getting somewhere, but you can't quite get maybe in this, as I say, for this tutorial, all three images, maybe you just get two and you're just struggling for that third one, my advice, leave it. Carry on, continue working through the steps, go back to it. You may get new ideas, and certainly, last bit of advice, always like what you pick. That is the absolute biggest piece of advice. If for whatever reason Unsplash doesn't have exactly what you need, be it for 1, 2 or 3 or many more photos, images, there are two heavyweight resources online, which I'll just finish on. The first one is Shutterstock, shutterstock.com. The second one is iStock, iStockphoto.com. Both of these you will have to pay. Here in UK, the last time I purchased some, I think it was about £29 for 5 downloads, which I don't think is particularly unreasonable. You can try the images. If when you go into an image, you can actually download it on a try basis. It has the Shutterstock or iStock watermark across the middle of it. But it does give you the opportunity to get a feel for how it might look. So here, if you look, you can try. That means then you can get it on your web page, certainly after the next video when I show you how, and you can take a look at it. And that's the end of step 1 in section 3. Up next, let's import that template and add some of your imagery.